right. Are we live? I think we're live. All right, welcome, my friends. All right, excellent. So, super exciting news. After, what, like 6-7 years, I have finally updated Cubase. I went from Cubase 9.5 to Cubase 15. I'm gonna say I'm a little disappointed with the customer support. When I updated, something went wrong with my e-licenser. So Cubase 9.5 had a little USB. It's around here somewhere. It's a little like USB thing, and that had my license on it, and I just had to keep it plugged in. But apparently in 2022, they swapped to like a digital license, and there was some kind of weird thing. So I went like an entire week without being able to open this. And so now I'm happy. Now I've got it up. Let me see here. Ooh, it's staying a little, it's lagging a little bit. But yeah, so today I don't have too much of a plan. My plan is to, well, I do have a plan. I'm going to play around. I'm going to learn a little bit more about this, get into the swing of it. And I figured I'm going to come up with a cool little string part, some rhythmic strings, show some tricks and tips on how to make realistic sounding rhythmic strings. Hey, welcome 23. Welcome, my friend. How's it going? Let's see here. As usual, while I work on this stuff, let me know what questions you guys got. Any ideas, thoughts, concerns, recommendations? Let me know. I feel like these used to be combined, didn't they? This is throwing me off. It's just going to take some time. I feel like these two parts used to be combined. It's going to take some time getting used to this. Everything is a little different. So this is the quantized thing. Let's swap to whole notes. Let's come up with a chord progression. All right, I'm thinking something dramatic. I always do that one, though. That's an interesting chord progression. What kind of mood are we going for? What kind of emotion do you think? We want like something heroic? We want something dark? Let's do something a little dark. Let's do F major. So what I'm doing right now is I'm using a very simple strategy called sentence structure. Sentence structure is one of those grammatical structures that you find in music. When I say grammatical, it's because it's a pattern, but it's not a cookie cutter. Similar to how in English we have very specific grammatical patterns that words need to follow. I may be wrong, but I believe it's something like subject, verb, object, something like that. I don't know, I'm probably wrong. But there's a specific order of words to go in, right? And you don't call J.R.R. Tolkien a copycat because he uses those same grammatical structures. It's the same way with these musical structures, where they exist so far as they're common patterns, but they aren't cookie cutters. You're not ripping off other musicians by using them because it's just a common pattern that is found and understood as being useful in music. So, for example, this one sentence structure goes A, B, A, C. So we have A being a simple idea, in this case, a two-bar chord combination using Neo-Riemannian theory. Neo-Riemannian theory being a branch of music theory that describes things based off chord combinations rather than scales, rather than keys. You're just like, all right, these two chords, those are cool. And then I can use any other two chords that I like. It was F major. And then it goes A again, so A, B, A. And then we can do, what do we want to do? We'll say we want to return to A major, or A minor. So let's end with an E major. So it goes C, C for cadence. We need a nice strong pull. Naturally, one of the simplest that we can do is like an authentic cadence. End on a half cadence, so E major. So it returns. If we take this and drop it a tritone, we get what's called tritone substitution. So we do a B major, and I kind of like that, rather than this traditional I'm sorry. My microphone is like right in my face and it's blocking my access to my keyboard. I apologize if that's making a weird noise. I need to move it back a little bit so I can get access to my keyboard. All right, so we want to do... That's a traditional kind of authentic cadence. If we use tritone substitution, it would be... And I kind of like that sound a little bit more. Or do I? Let's listen to it again. No, I kind of like the E major better. Let's do that. Let's do E major. And then we'll just find a way. Any chords, any two chords that have at least one note in common are always going to work. So might as well do E. And let's do, why not E minor? So we've got A minor. Like that. What if we replace this E minor with a D minor, though? A little more adventurous. I kind of like that. Let's listen to it. I like that. That sounds cool. That's fun. So all of this is just based on patterns. Just this one pattern. A, B, A, C. I have an idea. That's idea A. I went to idea B, something new. I didn't care if it sounded like related to this or not. I just wanted another cool idea. I went back to my original idea A. And then I found a new idea, specifically a cadence that could end the whole thing and make it loopable. It's gonna work no matter what chords you used. As long as you followed a pattern like this, A, B, A, C, it's always going to work. The same way that no matter what you do with English or any language, as long as you follow a proper grammatical structure, you're going to make a sentence that makes sense. Some of them might be weird. Some of them might not make logical sense, but the sentence itself is structured properly. That's the key to music. Whether it's melodies, whether it's harmonies, whether it's bass lines, whether it's rhythmic layers, whether it's orchestration, whether it's long form structures, it doesn't matter. Anything in music will work as long as you have an underlying pattern, a logic that makes sense. So we've got our chord progression. Now let's do something cool with the strings. Let's make this like a rhythmic idea. Lauren Lofton 9039, you saying I've done that before has inspired a question. Do you ever have those moments during idea generation where everything sounds like everything else? If so, how do you get past it? Ooh, it says the last 4 bars are called an Andalusian cadence, I believe. Ooh, that is awesome. I feel like I've heard that term before, Andalusian cadence. I don't know what it is. So I'm gonna have to look that up. I love learning new music theory stuff, so thank you. So yeah, how do I get those moments where everything sounds like everything else? So let me, where is my, oh, how do I find the notepad? That's gonna be important. Y'all, how do you, like, anyone who uses Cubase 15, where's the notepad? There's gotta be, I really hope. Because there used to be a project window up here in Windows now, in Cubase 9.5. All right, let me Google this because that's going to be Cubase 15 notepad. I'm going to be really angry if they got rid of the notepad. The notepad of Cubase is an integrated notated tool. Track notepads found in the track inspector or mix console are for specific notes. All right, so how do I use it though? Set up window layout. Windows. Workplaces? Where is it? Maybe it's not in... Aha! Here we go. Good. All right. We got our notepad. All right. Thank you for your patience. As usual, you guys got questions, ideas, pop them in the comments. I'm happy to address them. So this question comes from Lauren Lofton. Say, how do you generate new ideas when everything sounds like something else. All right, so you keep doodling around, you keep finding new ideas, and everything sounds like a song that's already been done before. It all sounds like something you've done before. This usually happens when you try improvising something. All right, you've got muscle memory. You've got recent projects you've worked on, recent music you've been listening to. You've got things that your brain is already gonna latch onto. So the best way to break this is I like to take something I'm just gonna call the homework approach. If any of you have ever had, I'm sure we've all had assignments, we get a homework assignment, whether it's like creative writing or it's a music composition class or any class where you're supposed to create something and it's an assignment and you have zero emotional attachment. You're like, okay, I just need to crank something out to make it work. All right. When you do that, you end up coming up with some decent ideas. You might not think they're decent. You might not think that they're very interesting, but that's because you have no emotional attachment to it. But when you do that homework approach, you end up doing two things. One, you focus on craft/skill, not inspiration. And you work with a good enough mindset. All right? These two things that help you finish your homework assignments that are uninspired or whatever are tremendously important for breaking out of these little loops. If I'm sitting here, I'm going, that's awesome. I've done that a million times though. That's one of my favorite sounds. And I'm like, all right, that's not working. I was like, let's start over. Instead of trying to play, instead of trying to just improvise something, I decide, all right, focusing on craft/skill. It's important to have a workflow. All right, so for example, using harmony as an example. With harmony, I always start with the idea of what pattern am I going to use, what structure. Sometimes I'm using functional harmony, and so my pattern is going to be a traditional functional harmony, so like tonic, subdominant, dominant, tonic. Sometimes I'm using a variation of functional harmony that goes strong, weak, strong, weak. Sometimes I'm using non-functional harmony, and I'm using something like period structure or sentence structure or what's the term I'm looking for? Starts with an A. I'm blanking. I've done so many videos on it. An absolute progression. All of these being examples. So let me explain some of these. So for harmony, I always start with my pattern. All right. So for functional harmony, equals tonic, subdominant, dominant, tonic. The different chords of a scale have different functions. That's where the term functional harmony comes from. You have tonic chords. You have subdominant chords. You have dominant chords. And then you have other tonic chords. And you can create infinite patterns, or almost nearly infinite patterns, using this little pattern. It goes tonic, subdominant, dominant, tonic. You can do tonic, subdominant, dominant, tonic again, where you pick chords based off their structure. Another option is strong, weak, where tonic chords are strong and subdominant and dominant are both weak. So you could go strong chord, weak chord, strong chord, weak chord, strong chord. It's always going to work. So those are the two functional harmony patterns. If you want to learn more, if you want a free class all about functional harmony, which goes back to the Baroque period, it's a very old, reliable pattern. Go to my website, tabletopcomposer.com, click on the Academy tab right here. I have a free class, Music Theory and Harmony 1, Functional Harmony. This talks about major and minor scales. It talks about the modes. It talks about modal substitution. It talks about extended chords, which are beautiful, beautiful little things. I love extended chords. Talk about all kinds of different things. Bass lines, all kinds of cool things. So I got lots of free classes. The Academy is currently doing a fundraiser. These are free classes. Anyone can sign up. We are halfway to our goal. We've already gotten one goal. We succeeded in raising money for the Intro to Mixing class. I am currently making that. It will drop in December. 100% free. Anyone who wants to take it can always take it. I will never charge for it. But I need help raising money for the second one. So if we raise another 3,000 to the total of 6,000, I'll be able to start putting together the reading and writing music notation software. And then next month, we'll continue the fundraiser to try and get another class for creating realistic MIDI mockups. If we end up hitting all three, I'll continue the fundraiser with additional options like introduction to synthesizers, introduction to like sampling, all kinds of really cool classes and stuff that I would love to do. The reason why I do fundraisers for these is because they are 100% free, but they take a very significant amount of time and effort to build. That is time and effort that I cannot spend teaching private lessons. That is time and effort I cannot spend working on commissions, on making videos and books and stuff that makes me money. So I need to make sure that my monthly bills are paid for, that I can pay my rent, that I can pay my student loan payments, I can get my groceries, I can get my gas, I can take my girlfriend out, I can do all that kind of stuff that I need to do to just make sure that I can actually afford my cost of living. So that's what the fundraisers are for. Welcome, Gosh the Great. What's up? Thank you, Soften. Welcome, my friends. So the other patterns I was talking about are, non-functional harmony. Uses patterns beyond functional harmony, beyond the tonic sub. So they go beyond traditional harmony of chord functions. So for example, you have sentence structure, which is A, A, B, C. You have period structure, which is A, B, A, C. You have what's called an absolute progression, which is A, 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 or A, 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 etc., C. Basically, so a sentence structure, this chord progression right here is period structure. I think I accidentally called it sentence structure earlier. My apologies if that was confusing. But period structure, A, B, meaning a new two chord idea, back to A, and then a cadence. If we wanted to do sentence structure, very simple. Instead of A, B, A, C, we do A, B, C. Well, let me voice lead that a little better. And that works. We could do a absolute progression, which says just repeat the same to A, until it gets interrupted by the cadence. And you can just use different inversions to keep things interesting. So all of these are just patterns built around a simple, the chord progressions built around a simple pattern. Another one, for example, like this one, are common tone chord progressions, where you have one note and all of the chords in your progression have to have that one note until it gets interrupted by the cadence. That's the rule. The cadence can always interrupt your pattern. So we could do A minor, C major, E minor, that's an example of a chord progression where I just picked a bunch of chords that had an E natural in it until the cadence interrupted it. So back to the original idea. The reason why I'm bringing all this up is when you're trying to fiddle around and you're trying to come up with an idea and everything that you're improvising already sounds like something that's already been written. The trick to avoiding that is to stop improvising, to stop performing. Yes. Performing is a huge part of composing. Many incredibly gifted composers rely on it. That's fantastic. But if you're running into this problem, the problem usually comes from trying to improvise something and you've got muscle memory that's stuck, or you've got like your brain is stuck on a piece of music if you heard of something. And so in that case, it is important that you should be able to rely on your craft, on your skill, treating it like a homework assignment. Think, all right, awesome. I keep coming up with the same diddly idea. It's repeating itself over and over again. I'm going to just treat this like structure. All right, let's create a period structure chord progression. I'm going to be deliberate about trying to create something new, something that doesn't sound like that idea. And then you do period structure, and then you write a bass line, then you write a melody, but you just treat it like a homework assignment. You don't worry about inspiration. You worry about your skill, your craft as a composer, your knowledge that whatever you compose will work. And you stop, as you're composing, stop worrying about, no, this doesn't sound right. This doesn't sound perfect. It just needs to sound functional. 9 times out of 10. For me, it's been 10 times out of 10. I have never had this fail, but I'm going to say 9 times out of 10 just because assuming that it's going to fail for someone eventually at some point down the line. If I am stuck with writer's block and I just hate everything I'm writing and it's just not working for a project, I will go into this homework mode. And I'll say, all right, I cannot come up with a theme for this character. I've been banging my head against my keyboard all day for like 2 weeks. I can't figure something out. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to sit down. I'm going to rely on my music theory, on my craft for composing. I'm going to crank out 10 good enough themes. 10 themes that, yes, that's technically a melody. Yes, that's technically a chord progression. And then once I've written 10 good enough chord progressions, I take the rest of the day off. I go do other stuff. I listen to some audiobooks. I talk to some friends. I go for a walk. I go to the gym. I do anything that's not related to the project. Then the next day when I come back, guess what happens? I listen to the 10 pieces I wrote. And usually, and for me, every single time, at the very least, one of them sounds promising. One of those 10 good enough ideas, suddenly, with a little bit of time, with a little bit of grace, a little bit of separation, suddenly, one of them sounds, okay, that could be it. Let's workshop it. Sometimes it's like, oh, wow, that's perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. I'm just going to go with that. I'm going to submit that to the director, and bum, bum, it's good. I'm fine. And so when you've got this idea of anything you're trying to come up with, it doesn't sound good enough. You're being too harsh. You're being too, usually you're trying to judge something that's not ready to be judged. All right? Treat it like a homework assignment. Just good enough is good enough at some point. Come up with something, take a break, rely on your craft, rely on your skill, and then come back later and have fresh ears. Now, if you would like to learn more about my workflow, more about how to rely on your skill, I have something exciting to announce that I announced on my Instagram. The Indie Film Music Contest. Reset. If you go to the Indie Film Music Contest website, you're going to see a new button. A free online course? What? What is this? It is a new class made by ya boy. All right? This is a masterclass on writing melodies, writing chord progressions, and writing bass lines. It is less than an hour total. You can get through the whole thing, and if you follow it and you listen to the process, you will never, ever, I promise you, you will never struggle to write a melody ever again. This is the same method I used. This is thousands and thousands of hours of intensive neurodivergent ADHD-fueled music theory deep dives where I have summarized everything I have learned, my considerable knowledge, and my nerdy, geeky passion for music theory. I have summarized everything into the bare, basic patterns that govern all branches of music theory. And that is the existence of patterns. So it's 100% free. It's a free class. I have partnered with the Indie Film Music Contest. I was thrilled that they were willing to help host a free class with me. It helps further my mission of making music education more widely available and more free for all. They have a wonderful reach with lots of composers that I don't have the reach with. And so collaborating with them, we're able to reach a broader audience together. And it's just really cool being able to make those kind of resources free. So let's see here. Soften87, me and my therapist have figured out that my self-love and frustration with my music not being good enough to go hand in hand. I love what you just covered about trusting the process. Yes! AKA, point being, it's so easy to be too hard on yourself. Incredibly so. It is very easy to be hard on yourself. Do you know what one of the most common pieces of advice I have for my private students. I have worked with hundreds of private students one-on-one spanning 6 different continents. All right, it's one of my favorite things I do. One of the most common pieces of advice I have to give my students is you are judging an idea that's not ready to be judged. One of the most common issues I have is someone will say, hey, I have an idea. I came up with a little motif. And they're like, all right, here's my little motif. Let me see if I can play this on my tiny little keyboard. They're like, all right, is that a good enough motif? Is that strong enough to fill a melody? It's like, is this a good motif? Is this a good idea? Do I work with this or not? Or they'll give me a chord progression. Like, is this a good idea? They're like, is that a good idea? Is that good enough? Is this good enough? Is it worth my time? I hate that question, worth my time, because it's so misleading. Every idea is worth your time because it's not this is not a good idea. This is not a bad idea. All right? This has no inherent value. A motif of any type has no inherent value. It's what you do with it. Let's see if I'm going to butcher Beethoven. Well, that's terrible. What was that? It's like, is it a minor third? Is that it? I don't know. Is that major third? I don't know. I have terrible ear training. That's a terrible little motif. Ba-ba-ba-bum. Oh, that was out of tune. That was out of pitch. I'm sorry. I can't sing worth a dang today. But like Beethoven's bum-bum-bum-bum. It's stupid. There's no, like, what are you supposed to do with that? And yet, the genius is that he turns an entire symphony off of that idea. 4 movements across his 5th symphony built on that one little idea. And yet I have you have no idea what your motifs are capable of. To use another example, another incredible example. Let's build another track here. Let's do some horns. Let's do... Oh, so there's no horns in this one, so let's just do Wagner tubas. Let me play that again, see if you recognize it. Of course you don't recognize that, because it sounds weird in Wagner tubas. But it's the Batman motif by Hans Zimmer. Let's find some horns. Let's get some actual horns. How is that a good idea? It's a minor third interval with just a little bit of dynamics. And yet it became one of the most iconic soundtracks of the past decades, spanning an incredible trilogy of 3 movies from that one idea. It's a minor third on French horns. Is that a good enough idea? I have so many students who will come up to me like, is this a good enough idea? Is that a good enough idea? I don't know. No one knows. It's not about what is the idea, it's what you do with it. And so many people will judge their music before they've finished it. They're like, hey, I've come up with this little ditty. I don't think it's good enough though. Or I don't know if it's like, well, how do you know? You have to finish it. Finish it, do something with it. Finish it, and then once you're done, then you can judge it. Then you can decide whether it was worth it, whether it was good enough. Even then, it's too late, you already wrote it, who cares? But the idea is like, so many of my students, when they're starting out, that's one of the first things we have to break. One of the first habits we have to break is this idea of trying to judge the merits of an idea before seeing what it's capable of, if that makes sense. Yep. Soften, recognize it. Thank you, Soften. Yes, so the whole point is like you have no idea what potential you have until you've actually seen it through. Until you've actually allowed yourself to experiment and try something. All right, speaking of which, okay, so we got another question. Lauren, that's what I tell my friends whenever they start writing something. What you write doesn't matter. What you do with it is what counts. Yes, exactly. And those are my favorite examples. The Beethoven motif. Bum, 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 bum. Again, out of pitch, out of tune. I'm sorry. But I'm wearing headphones. Bum, 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 bum. It's a silly little idea. Anyone could have come up with that, but only Beethoven could turn that into a 5, like his Symphony Number 5. That minor third. Every composer that's ever lived, it seems, has used a minor third at some point. It's one of the most basic fundamental intervals. And yet Hans Zimmer turned an incredible soundtrack out of it. With James Newton Howard, but that theme in particular, that was Hans Zimmer who wrote that. James Newton Howard did like Two Faces theme, he did the Gotham City themes and stuff like that, but the Batman motif, that was Hans Zimmer. So all that to say, all that to be an unnecessarily long tangent, that you have to allow yourself to finish your pieces. Do not judge your pieces. Who knows? I don't know. You certainly don't know whether an idea is worth it, whether an idea is good enough. You have no way of knowing until you see what you can do with it. All right, that's how you know. Now, that being said, there are certain things that you can do to make sure that you set yourself up for success. So if you would like to set yourself up for success with writing melodies, again, my free class with the Indie Film Music Contest, you can do that. My Academy, I do have a free class on melody, structure, and form. All right. This class, there's also a video, Tabletop Composer, Motif, look that up. Boom, right here. How to write a strong motif from my Melody for Composers playlist. Check these out. They're wonderful resources. Thousands of people have benefited from them. If you would like to support the creation of new classes, please consider making a donation to the Academy. There are recommended tiers, but there's also just donations that you can make as well. Thank you very much for your consideration. Soften, I knew another composer was involved, but I didn't realize it was James Newton Howard. Awesome. Oh, yeah. Yeah, James Newton Howard and Hans Zimmer collaborated for the Batman trilogies. The most iconic themes, they're both very vocal. James Newton Howard talks about how he's a little bitter that because he and Hans competed to see who could make the actual Batman theme, and Hans Zimmer's vision ended up winning. Same with the Joker. That's another cool thing, is Hans Zimmer said if they had not proven in the first movie that they could get away with just using a single interval for the theme for Batman, there's no way they would have been able to come up with the iconic Joker theme, which is built not on an interval at all, but actually just a common building tension in a single note. Right? So, let's see here. Let's keep building, shall we? While I work on some stuff. If anyone has any other questions, I'm just going to keep building. I'm going to see, because I'm trying to get used to this new version of Cubase. So if you've got ideas, questions, things you would like me to help with, let me know. But in the meantime, I'm going to keep building a neat little idea. Let's listen to this. Let's swap to velocity. Let's drop the velocity a little bit. Make it a little softer. All right, so then let's start making this into a rhythmic idea. First things first, let's set up a string library. I've got Albion 1 open already, so let's just do Albion 1. Let's create an interesting string idea and see. We'll make it like a rhythmic string. If I can make it sound more realistic. We'll get a simple performance first. Let's do this. Let's mute that. Let's get an interesting little rhythmic idea. Let's create a rhythmic bass line first. So I'm going to do, I got my bass line. All I'm going to do is introduce a little bit of rhythm. Typically, what I like to do is I like asymmetrical rhythms. And I like to create a 3-bar idea, like a 2-bar idea. So in my bass line, I have a 2-bar pattern for my rhythm. And then I'm just going to repeat it to legitimize it. Any idea, no matter how weird, no matter how quirky, no matter seemingly strange, can be legitimized musically by just repeating it. That's the secret. If you have a weird idea and you don't know if it's actually going to work or not, just repeat it. It's as simple as that. It becomes legitimized not as a weird little idea, but as a pattern. That is a abrasively loud metronome. Let's do here. Where is it? Control room. Yes, I'd like to enable it. Let's drop that down. This should be. This is for the. That was not. That was not it, was it? I thought that was my. I thought that was my metronome. How do this is see, this is why I'm doing it. This is why I'm doing it. This is why I'm doing all this, so I can figure out how the setup in this new version of Cubase is. Metronome setup, here it is. Let's do here. Let's do click sounds. I like the clave. Where's the clave? Clave A. Let's do audio click level. Let's cut this in half. Let's do 62-ish. There we go. There we go. All right, so we've got our idea that's been legitimized. Now let's try creating an interesting little. Okay, let's do. An interesting little rhythmic idea. So that was eighth notes. Let's do 3. Let's try this. See if this works. Create a nice, again, interesting little rhythmic idea. And then since this one is a little bit trickier, let's just repeat it. 16th notes, emphasizing mostly just 8th notes and 16th notes. And since it's a little more rhythmically active, I'm going to just make this one a little bit shorter before it repeats. And then we can make this actually a little more. Dun 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 dun. Let's do the quick double neighbor tone. Double neighbor tone is when you move from one note to another by first going down, then above, and then to the target. And then we'll just go down, repeat the pattern. That's the trick. to rhythmic ideas is you just need to get repetitive. That's how you would legitimize it. And then let's do this one. Let me check some questions. Adam Neely. I have not watched Adam Neely in years. Is that something that Adam says? Repetition legitimizes? It's a very common thing. It's a rule in music. If you want to legitimize an idea as an idea and not a mistake, you just need to repeat it. So let's take this, go down to A. Let's do the G, just not G sharp. Let's do that. We'll take this, we'll replace the B. Make sure we don't have any sharps. And then as I continue to do this, I might come through and make some changes. Right now, I'm just going to do mostly copy and paste. And then again, like I said, eventually I'll come through and I will fix some things up, add some variety. Make little changes here and there. And then I think that's it. Let's listen to it. I feel like this right here. There needs to be something. I need to change something at the end. I feel like I need to build something up. Bum ba dum bum. Bum ba dum bum. So this is an E minor. Let's try like a little run up in the note. I like that. Let's take this B over here again. And then this way we can add even more, emphasize the chord change from E minor to E major with a G sharp. I like it. All right, excellent. So then let's start introducing another layer. Every 4 bars, about every 4 bars is a good safe rate to introduce new ideas. Now this one, I think I'm gonna keep a little safer. Instead of having an interesting rhythmic idea, I'm gonna do what's called a timekeeper. A timekeeper is a strict, straight rhythm. Like straight 8th notes, straight 16th notes, something fast. And the whole point is it's basically like a fast little version of the metronome. It's a fast little version of the metronome. It takes a very simple rhythm that gives a little more context to all the other craziness going on. Let's hear how this sounds. Excellent. Soften says, please add 2 harmonizing rubber chickens, a tin whistle hitting as many octaves as possible, very fast, and a hot dog drum. It would be it would sound very nice and good. I like your vision, my friend. Unfortunately, the only one I actually have is a tin whistle. And I just feel like without the rubber chickens and the hot dog drum, it wouldn't do justice to your vision. So I'm afraid I'm just gonna have to sit out on that one. Let's see here. Let's emphasize these beats. Let's help emphasize Sorry, got a little bit of the sniffles. Let's emphasize these same downbeats as the same basic rhythm as the bass to create a little consistency, a little uniformity. All right, so then let's repeat this entire thing. But this time, let's get... It's going to be A, G, F, G. A, G, F, G. So G, not G sharp. And then we'll introduce the final two layers. And then in these last 4 bars, super simple. Before I add the complex little top violin part, let's just double the low end. And then just to keep things a little interesting, we'll have the top bass line, the cello, go a little faster. And so right now, this doesn't sound very realistic. So my goal after this is to make these, to show some tricks, a couple tips y'all can use to make your own short strings sound much more realistic. Let's see here. Gotta make sure I'm following the same pattern I established. Let's listen to it, and then we gotta introduce the high strings. So, Evan, what am I writing this for? For fun, for the live stream. This is new software for me, so I'm just familiarizing myself with it. Thank you. All right, let's see this. We need to add something right about here. Every 4 bars, that's not a hard rule. Sometimes it's inappropriate every 4 bars, but for this, for our sakes and purposes here, we're gonna do every 4 bars. I'm gonna introduce a new idea. And our new idea is going to be based on this final layer of our chord progression. Let's do a simple. Let's start off with a simple little rhythmic idea. The same simple rhythmic idea that has been at the core of our entire thing so far. This simple 2-bar asymmetrical rhythmic idea. And let's create a little musical idea. This is a G. F. It's gonna be an A. So this is our basic idea. I don't like the repetition of the note here. So let's do that. So it was like bum. G. Oops. So what I'm doing is I'm establishing a pattern. Bum, 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 then down. Bum, bum, bum. Same basic idea. Bum, 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 down. Bum, bum, bum. And I'm following it. Bum, 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 bum. This is the essence of rhythmic parts. Rhythmic parts are literally just patterns. That's all you have to do. It's so simple. Don't overthink it. And then we'll break the pattern for the cadence, as I usually like to do. So now, this is where we can chop things up a little bit, make it interesting. Let's do. Now I got the same rhythmic idea that I had down there. Maybe I'll just leave it like this. Let's try, what if I just... What if I just do like eighth notes? Yeah, what if I just did that? What if I just like did eighth notes? Then I can chop this up. I'm hitting the Alt button on my keyboard, ALT, and I am using the cutting tool. And that's what chops the note into even slices based off what the initial slice I give it is. So we can try this. Let's emphasize our initial notes with velocity. And then whatever this sounds like, I think I'm just going to leave it so I can get down to the next step. Excellent. So this is our original idea. Let's make it sound more realistic, shall we? Strangle this in a little bit. I'm going to come out and say original sample. I'm going to duplicate this multiple times. Because for realistic short strings, creating realistic short strings. Number one, pan everything. Some libraries come pre-panned. All right, panning means essentially just assigning each one their space on stage. So we have violin 1. If you look up an orchestra seating chart, you will see first violins, second violins, violas, cellos, basses. We're going to pan using that in mind. Some libraries, like I said, come pre-panned. Albion 1 does not. And I usually recommend, unless you've got a specific panning plugin that you like, I usually recommend using the panner inside the library itself. So I'm going to say about, let's say about 60. 60 left. A nice strong pan. And if I solo this, you'll hear how it's much stronger on my left side now. And all I'm going to do is that's violin 1, so I'm going to delete everybody except for my top voice. Let's do violin 2. violin 2. We'll say about 30 left instead of 60 left. About so half as far. 31 is close enough. And all we're going to do is we're going to delete everybody who's not violin 2. So this is violin 2. So get rid of the violas, get rid of the basses, get rid of the cello. We have violin 2. Let's do violas. If you remember on violas, those were about 30 right. You'll want to trust your ears. Right now, I'm not doing too much playback. I'm not trying to be as nearly as like specific as I can possibly be, just because this is a live demonstration. So it's a proof of concept. It doesn't have to be a perfect idea. So I got my violas. Then cello and basses are about the same. I'm going to say I'll put the cello at about 50. 45, 50. And then the basses, or cello. Then the basses will be 60. And again, got to go through. Got to delete everybody who's not a cello. Then basses. Let's set these bad boys to 60 right. If we listen to this already, get rid of everybody who's not a bass. And they only pop in the last 4 bars. So if you already know, if you've got headphones, it's going to be way easier to tell. Here's the original. Now let's listen to everybody else. So the original sound a little bit louder for some reason. I don't know why that is, but it sounds wider with all of the other ones. So we've got this now. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of a human element. And everything, step number 2, we are going to shorten notes just a little. All right. What we're going to do this for is so it makes room for everybody. Because we're going to change these randomly. So take this, control, drag just a little bit, just to add a little bit of space. That's all we want is a little bit of space. We'll do this for everybody. Come in, drag in. No, it does not need to be uniform, the same length for each of these. These are short samples anyways. So then take the violas, drag these in a little bit. Cello. Also, by the way, these steps are not in any particular order. You're just going to eventually want to get all of them done. That. Because next, what we are going to do, we're then going to apply a little bit of randomness to everybody. First thing we're going to apply, let's see if I can actually do this. My old ones I had set up. How do I do it on here? So, logic editor, apply presets. Let's see here, shift position. Plus 10 ticks. That'd be minus ticks. But this is not random. All right, so I would like to. Here we go. So ticks. Ticks are a small, minuscule fraction of a beat. I believe 4.8 ticks equals about 1% of a beat. Or 1% of a quarter note, I should say. So if we hit plus or minus 10 ticks, randomize, watch how everything is neatly gridded. Okay, apply preset. There we go. Look, everything got shifted randomly by a minuscule little amount. And yeah, this is going to be very subtle. It's not going to be a massive impact. but it's all about creating a bunch of little things. And this is why we shortened all of them. It's all about creating a bunch of different things. Logic editor, apply preset, note position and quantize, plus or minus ticks, or randomize. It's all about creating a bunch of small little approaches that add up. This will randomize positions by plus or minus 10 to 15 ticks. Randomize velocity by about 15 to 20%. So now we've got all of these. We're going to go in, see how everything is nice and uniform. There's a little straight line across the velocity across everybody. We want to get rid of that. That's what creates like the machine gunning effect. We're going to go to velocity. We can do this one. Pop, pop, boom. Nice little chaotic little show. So now we're going to listen to the original. And now we'll listen to the more human performances. Super subtle. But it does have an impact. One last little trick before I let y'all go. Humanize the tempo. We're going to add a tempo track. No, that's not what I wanted. I wanted a tempo track. There we go. Now, we will add an instrument track. Or we'll do a MIDI track. All I'm going to do is I'm going to set a metronome, and I am going to perform the downbeat of every measure. Well, that's weird. I'm not used to the MIDI tracks having sound. So now you see I used my best human capabilities to track the beat, but you'll see I'm inaccurate. This is the way almost all, like every human will, no human will ever be as accurate as a metronome, and that's good. We don't want to be as perfect as a metronome. That's where the human quality comes in. But once you've done your little conducting track, you're going to go to MIDI. You're going to go to functions. You're going to, where is it? Dang it, they keep moving everything on me. Calculate from MIDI. Okay, so yeah, awesome. So they changed the name. It used to be called Calculate Tempo from Clicks, but Calculate Tempo from MIDI events. So what you're going to do is you're going to tell it how frequently did I tap. I tapped once per bar. And I tapped at the start of the bar. Gonna hit OK. Watch the tempo track. Boom. Now, he's going to make small, subtle adjustments. I could have conducted more frequently if I wanted to. I could have done every quarter note. I could have done every half note. I could have, whatever measure of unit I wanted to conduct. It's now going to automatically adjust the tempo. And you can watch right here, watch the tempo and watch how it changes to match my human performance. And it's going to give this a whole more of a human feel. right? And one last tip. I said that was going to be the last one. Last tip, we'll say optional. Double multiple libraries. That's what we'll do real quick. We're going to duplicate Violin 1, but we're going to change it from Albion 1 to Metropolis Arc 2, because it's right here. And all we're going to do is we're going to combine multiple strings. And we won't do the whole thing, because I do got to go. I got to give a phone call to my friend, and I have a concert to go to. But you'll hear how combined they can create an interesting... as this library loads. A more full sound. So let's do this again. Actually, I'm going to have fun. Let's do it. Let's duplicate it. We'll do this again. And all these little tips, if you would like more tips on writing realistic MIDI mockups to make your MIDI instruments sound as realistic as possible, don't forget I am hosting a fundraiser for my free academy on my website. A bunch of free classes. One of the new classes I am hoping to build is a class dedicated to this topic. Dedicated to this topic of creating realistic performances. Dang it. I accidentally got rid of Albion 1. That's not what I wanted to do. I just didn't want to just replace it. I wanted to double it. And I will give you lots of tips, not just on how to do short strings, but how to do long strings, legato strings, how to do brass instruments, how to do woodwinds, how to do percussion, and all that jazz, all that good stuff, right? So, every donation helps. Every donation helps create new free classes to make music education more widely available for composers all over the world. So, here is the original, plus the modified tempo. Which one are you talking about, Soften? The tempo? You can always adjust it. You can always go through and like correct little spots that you overdid. Now let's listen to the updated one. Okay. Low strings are super loud. Some of the libraries are still loading. But it sounds way better, right? Right? Not bad for completely live. I love what I do. I love my job. Thank you, people. I really do. I really do. And it's because of people like you guys that allow me to do this. That was just a simple, stupid little idea. It started as a chord progression. Started as a super simple chord progression, nothing crazy. Showed you how to make it, showed you how to come up with the ideas, and then I showed you how to make it sound more realistic. All right, so couple announcements before I call it. If there are any questions, pop them in the comments now and I will address them before I finish the stream. Don't forget to like the stream as well. That does wonders for the algorithm. Thank you. So, announcement number 1. Go to the indiefilmmusiccontest.com and check out the new free class I did with them. Less than an hour, masterclass on melody writing, harmony, and bass lines. Less than an hour. My personal guarantee, even though I don't really have anything to guarantee, is this is my method. This is my method for writing melodies for chord progressions and bass lines. If you master this method, you will never have writer's block again. You will never, ever struggle to write a melody, a chord progression, or a bass line ever again. All right? And it's 100% free. Thank you to the Indie Film Music. Shout out to those people over there for trusting my vision, for creating free resources of education for people. Thank you for hosting it. Thank you for partnering with me. This has been amazing. Check it out. I do have a class on here as well. There is another class on here somewhere. There's another class here somewhere. Maybe it's part of the register. There's another class you can sign up for film scoring to be part of the competition as well, where I teach you how to score a film. Check that out. The Academy page on my website. Completely free education. This is my passion project because your boy was forced to drop out of music school because I was too poor. I couldn't do it, so I wasn't allowed to graduate. 4 free classes with a 5th on the way. Thank you to the wonderful, generous support of so many wonderful people. We successfully raised the money for the first class. We have 3,000 so far. We have unlocked Intro to Mixing. I am currently making that class because y'all have helped support my cost of living for this month. And so this class will come out in December. We are halfway to another 3,000 already. We're like halfway through the month. We're already halfway there. If we unlock that one, I will start working on the class, reading and writing music notation. And then next month, if we get another 3,000, I will make the free class, creating realistic MIDI mockups, creating realistic performances using software. All right? To make your music sound as awesome and realistic as possible. All 3 of these classes will be 100% free for anyone who ever wants to take them. They will never be charged for them. But because of that, because I don't make money off of them, it's difficult to commit the time because this does take hundreds of hours to make these. So that's why I rely on supporters, for people who believe in the vision, for people who want to support and create a free, high-quality education source for anyone who wants to learn how to compose. And so thank you so very much to the incredible generosity that has helped support this academy so far. So please consider joining. I also have books. I also have cool things. I have private lessons that I teach. So, excellent. Sofin, you are like one of the happiest people on the planet. My brother isn't even a composer or anything, but I showed him where you reacted to my piece, City Through Pine, a month-ish ago, and he was so impressed with your personality and your mission, as am I. You are such a positive lighthouse in this community. Love what you do. Thank you so much. I do love what I do. I find so much joy in this. I find so much joy in people. I am very much a people lover. I love people. I think people are wonderful. I think they're incredible. I think they're interesting. And I love just seeing what you guys are capable of doing. So thank you for being part of this community, Sofin. I really do. And thank you for the very kind words. I appreciate it. And yes, I am very excited for the mixing class as well. Thank you. I'm going to sign off now, y'all. I have a concert to prepare for that I'm going to go see a performance of Vivaldi's Four Seasons. I'm very excited. So thank you very much, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will probably see most of you again next week. All right. Bye-bye.